Hello everyone, I'm Lyric and this is my show. I was just texting my boyfriend. Yay. Today, we're going to talk about the phrase post-race. For many people, this election was a huge wake-up call. A wake-up call from a deep, deep sleep that I believe was induced in part by the belief that we're in a post-racial society. So what is post-race? I decided to take to the streets of New York and find out.
We're talking about important issues.
Oh, important issues. We need to find some important issues.
Right, some more important issues than
got
race.
that.
Have you ever heard post-race before?
Never heard of it.
I know nothing.
You know nothing about race.
I know nothing.
Have you heard that? I haven't heard that.
I don't think I've heard that.
No. Oh, you mean presidential race or?
No.
I've heard my uncle speak about it a few times, but I didn't really listen.
In what context did you hear it?
Surrounding the election, it's just thrown around in there.
It's interesting. What is it exactly?
Post-race would be a world where race actually doesn't matter, but it's still hugely a factor.
So, it's clear that we need to break this term down. Where did this actually come from? Well, in 1971, a group of 70 politicians and professors formed a group called the Southern Growth Policies Board. This group was responsible for putting together policies for the future of the South. The New York Times reported that there were 4 black people there out of the 70 who declared that racism was over. Now, let's just cut to 2008, shall we, when we finally elected a black president. This was another chance for people to throw around the term post-race, because the leader of the free world was black, right? An example, here we have Chris Matthews on NBC saying, I forgot that he was black for an entire hour. So, are we post-race?
Do you think we'll ever be post-race?
That's like such a depressing question.
I hope so. I can only hope.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be worried about race.
It'll be minimized, but it won't be completely gone.
Like, what are we now?
We're humans. We differentiate between one person and we look for things to make them different. It's always going to happen.
Thank you, Ben. Will you just sign a little paper for us?
Now that we've gone through the history of this word, some really awkward times where people have had to use it, I brought in a very old friend and a new friend of mine to help us talk about what this means for us now. Okay, so let's talk about how we see post-race play out in our everyday lives. Have you guys heard it amongst your friends in the streets or in the news?
I see it every day in the comment sections. I often see people saying, oh, haven't we moved past this? Get over it. It doesn't really acknowledge or respect the fact that we had a system of laws in this country that put people in the position to have to regard themselves and their personal safety and livelihood on the basis of race. And to now conveniently want to sweep it away is just not appropriate.
If you take an example of someone like Barack Obama, I think people who support the narrative of post-race would point to his success, but it completely is an erasure of the very real struggles he had to face as a black man in America.
One of the things I found when I was studying his rhetoric on race was that he had talked about trying to hail a cab in New York City, even at that point of being someone of national stature and notoriety, still having problems doing that. Well, no matter how many degrees you get or whatever those vestiges of respectability are, there are still people who will see you and treat you like you were less.
So now that we can all agree that we're definitely not post-race, do we even want to be post-race, or do we see a future for ourselves where we're post-race?
I think it's both impossible and also would be destructive. My blackness was never the problem. White supremacy was. And I want to be able to celebrate blackness. And I think so much of black culture reacts to that, and it should. So I wouldn't like to see that erased.
It's dangerous not to name it, not to name the fact that race, like gender and all sorts of other identity markers, do matter, and they really do shape our cultural understanding of who we are and what we can be in the world. Not only are we damaged and harmed, but it harms everyone else who doesn't get the richness of what we bring.
I think in order to get past this, we need to prioritize honest and open education surrounding the institutions that specifically were meant to keep black people, women, etc., out of positions of power, and how those still have lingering implications.
The conversations we need to be having about race, the conversations that we need to be having about injustices just need to be happening out in the open. I think that we're in a really important juncture where we can either speak our truth or continue to impede progress moving forward. Because I actually do believe that most decent human beings want the same things values-wise.
Definitely. So listen, everyone, we'll never be post-race, but this doesn't even have to be a bad thing. All we have to do is be post-racist. Also, to be clear, this is not an end-all be-all conversation. This is an invitation for you to go out there and have these conversations with your friends, with your family, and with your coworkers. Check back in with me in the comments, and I'll see you next time.